Welcome to The Real and the Woo. I'm your host, Laurie Stern. Join me as I invite experts and friends to discuss a range of topics from the factual and practical to the mystical and magical. Consider this your virtual happy hour filled with lively, authentic, and meaningful conversations meant to inform, inspire, and ignite your curiosity. Whether you are very real or super woo, this podcast is just for you. Welcome to The Real and the Woo. I'm your host, Laurie Stern, and today I have the pleasure of sitting down with Rebecca Glick. Hi, Rebecca.
Hi, Lori. How are you?
I'm good, thank you very much. I'm going to read to you guys because I'm going to get it all wrong. Often I don't like to do this, but I'm more and more, I just want to make you sound professional, and you took the time to send me your bio, so here it is. Rebecca is the founder of Nefesh Living Health and Wellness Coaching and a board certified functional medicine health coach for busy midlife moms. I love that. As many of us know firsthand, moms juggle everything and often take care of everyone else's needs first. Rebecca helps women prioritize themselves, their energy, health, and well being at a time of life when lifestyle areas like nutrition, movement, sleep, and stress really impact health and well being. So before becoming a female founder, she spent more than 2 decades in professional services and executive coaching roles. So she knows what it's like to balance a demanding career, family, and the never-ending to-do list. So I'm going to stop right there and let you dive into the rest of it, so I don't sound like I'm just regurgitating things. I'd rather have my listeners hear in your own voice what got you into this business and why or when did you decide to hang your shingle?
Sure. Yeah, happy to. So thanks for the introduction. And for me, I have been passionate about health and wellness and, taking care of yourself for a long time, just based on my own health, becoming a mom. I certainly became more diligent about what was going into my kids' bodies and foods and snacks and started to become more knowledgeable. Really had a calling, I think, to go out and do my own thing for a few different reasons. One, I had a sort of a key pivotal moment in life. My family, particularly myself, my husband, and my younger daughter were in Highland Park on July 4th at the
Mm.
shooting that occurred a few years ago. And luckily, we were okay. We fled on foot. But that moment in time was really a wake up call for me in terms of where am I spending my time? Where am I spending my energy? What am I doing with my life? And it was just a moment of saying, pause. What else can I be doing? How can I take some of the skill sets that I've built over a long career of working with leadership and in a space of helping people make change on an organizational level, on an individual level, taking it up a notch in a way that had even more meaning for me personally in terms of how they felt as a person and their health and wellness beyond the confines of their career or their development in an organization. And so I left my organization. I pursued a year-long certification as a functional medicine health coach, which was very aligned to a lot of the coaching work that I'd been doing for many years. So it wasn't new in terms of coaching, it was new knowledge, new depth in research and science and studies about all the ways that our body is interconnected and all the ways that you mentioned around these lifestyle pieces that are so important and often so overlooked. And so really paired that together with my coaching experience and decided to bring those two together. And I'm really focused, as you said, around particularly midlife moms and busy midlife moms, which maybe is one and the same, right? but
Right.
but that stage of life where things are starting to maybe change a little bit from a hormonal perspective. People are a little what's going on, but don't really have the time necessarily to stop and say, wait a minute, how do I reprioritize myself? I'm tired all the time. I don't have the same energy that I did. I'm not sleeping well. I don't know what to eat anymore. One person tells me this, another person tells me this. There's so much noise about different wellness trends and do this, don't do this. And so I am really creating a place for women to slow down, take a minute, sort through all the noise and the clutter, and really understand what is best for them in a very personalized and individualized way, um, and help them feel confident and more clear about how they can regain, feeling more like themselves again.
Yeah. I love all that. So coaching. So if you could just explain, like, what kind of coaching did you do prior to what you're doing now?
So, like I said, I was primarily in a leadership advisory space most recently for the last 13 years prior to making this shift. And so I worked with a lot of senior executives who were moving into different roles in their career, moving up into the organization, and really helping them fine tune how they might show up as a leader of a team or manage a larger team, how they might take on a new role and what that means, how they sort of show up for themselves in the organization. So there's certainly things that we're blending a bit into what I'm doing now around stress management, around relationships, but it was in more in the confines of, sort of organizational context or a team or managing a difficult situation within an organization.
It's for men and women.
For men and women,
Okay.
yes, absolutely. And I was
Yeah.
I was also working quite a bit in work around succession planning. So I was working a lot with boards and CHROs and leadership teams about really helping them identify the next talent to lead an organization, which is really amazing work and met incredible people and incredible talent, and it's sort of the coaching and the change piece is really similar, and that sometimes it's really sort of taking a pause and helping people reflect and creating that space that especially often, just like a busy mom, a busy executive doesn't always have that time and that luxury to say, slow down, how am I actually showing up? How do I want to show up? And really putting that individual in the driver's seat. So that's
Mhm.
that's really like there's not a difference necessarily in coaching when it comes to that, and I understand that space well of this isn't telling someone what to do and you must eat XYZ or you must do this, to show up how you want to show up in your organization, but helping someone reflect on what do they already know, what strengths can they already bring forward and let that kind of carry and set the plan versus someone else dictating it, because the research really shows like time and time again when you're being told what to do, it's not going to stick, it's not going to last in the same way than when it's coming from within you and you're connecting it back to a bigger purpose and a bigger why.
Right. Right. So true. So the word coming through, and I know it's part of your mission and mine, despite, I mean, along with the customized way we provide our services, right? Because you do that, I do that, is all about empowerment.
Mhm.
So when we empower people, and that looks different to every individual, right? Some people do really well with being told what to do. They want to be told what to do. And other people need to sort of integrate that learning and how it feels in their body, which is what I help people do, and you. So I love that you make space for the way people learn, right? Everybody learns differently. A doer to learn. So
Mhm.
I have to
Yep.
integrate in order
Feel
for
it.
it to
Yep.
stick. Yep. Touch it, feel it, smell it, squeeze it. And but again, with the internal wiring I encounter in my client base, which is no different than the ones you encounter, just the framework of empowering people to understand they have a right
Mhm.
to slow down
Yeah.
and to get curious and then feel empowered to understand what makes them feel triggered or exhausted, fearful or happy, right? And everything in between. And so, what I'd like to ask you, because you and I are unique in the way we deliver our craft and our coaching in a space that to the untrained eye looks like it's saturated with a lot of people like us
Yeah.
coming out of the box like a newly minted health coach and founder. Uh, you know, imposter syndrome's been talked to death. So let's just assume we're over that because it
Mhm.
still comes up, rears its ugly head. We're human. But I know you're in the world that you're in and you're encountering a lot of professionals who've paved the way for you practically or possibly. And you might be becoming a mentor to people following you. So, in what way would you say you're uniquely, Rebecca, when you deliver your services to people that may connect or not
Mm.
with what some other people might be doing out there?
Sure. Certainly first and foremost, I think I bring a real compassion and care for the way that I work with people, and I'm just who I am, right? in the corporate world too much. I was told I would smile too much, right, in certain settings, and I but that's who
Someone
I am.
told
Like
you? Someone had the audacity.
that's a story for another day.
I want
Um,
that person's number.
but that's who I am, right? I care for people. I want them to, really understand like the great things that they bring. And so I do really believe in the word compassion and care. And I think it's not about rigidity. It's not about you must do XYZ. And I really do believe, and sometimes that's hard for people to understand, it's very customized and personalized for each individual. So yes, there are absolutely methodologies and things that I know work when it comes to behavior change and how to help people uncover when they're stuck in certain mindsets, that are holding them back, and how we can help bring that out. But it really does look different for each person and how we might go about that. And it's not that I have a standard cookie cutter, like everyone gets this tool. Sure, there's like a process that we start so that I can understand where people are coming from and where their goals are and where they might want to head. But other than that, it's really about what the individual is seeking and what's going to work for them. As you said, everyone learns differently, everyone feels differently. I've been working with a client recently that's really been focused on more intuitive eating and being really mindful about, do they want this? Why are this? How does their body feel? And they came up with their own sort of methodology of, you know what? Just for a few days a week during lunchtime, I'm going to really note like how I feel right before I eat, how I feel while I'm eating this meal, and right after. And that was their idea. That was not me dictating, this is what you should do to, get more in touch with your body. And so it's a very fluid approach in terms of what the different components are like. So I do think that whether other coaches do that, in the coaching space, that is certainly part of it, but that is something that I really pride myself on. I think the other piece is that I really feel like I try to bring my lived experience
Yeah.
to the table, right?
Going to ask you that. So, like the inspiration for,
Yeah.
listen, I teach from what I know combined
Yes.
with training and expertise.
Mhm.
But how we bring our life stories to the table with clients is what sets us apart because they're unique
Yeah.
stories as well. So, would you like to share any sort of personal story that brings you in a greater connection to your clients? Or when did you realize you were allowed, I guess, to use that as leverage to connect with your clients? Because I think a lot of coaches sort of have a view of they can't interfere or put their personal stamp sometimes. And that's not anyone I've encountered, but I know that happens. And I
Mm.
feel like at least the people that come to me, it sounds like the people that come to you, they want our human, messy, and professional side all in a box because that's just who we are.
Well, and I completely agree, and I think it all comes down to how you offer that and how you deliver it. So if I'm having a coaching session with someone and I'm just going on about all the things I like to cook and all the things that have worked for me, that's not really useful to the individual. But if I say, "Hey, would you like to hear about, something that I've tried that has worked, or I know this has worked for some other people," that's very different. And so it's just about sort of that nuance of checking in with someone and
Mm.
then offering up your experience versus just putting it on someone. And so that's something that I, really, really try to do in terms of making it not, it's not about me, but I certainly have a perspective on what I've been through. And I think certainly the framing of being that sort of busy professional corporate mom who, is running through the airport and like looking for a snack, and then you're tired and your flight is delayed and you end up grabbing the M's, and then you really feel just ick afterwards, or
Mm.
eating out all the time for different business dinners or settings and just feeling like you don't know what to order, or you don't know what to get, or there's all kinds of things or demands in terms of your sleep, and up at your computer at 10:30 at night when you really need to be getting a good night's sleep, but that's deadlines. I do really try to relate to, I've been in those shoes, and I also can see that there's a lot of, when you're not sort of in those shoes, how you can sneak in small doable shifts that can make a
Mm.
big difference even in that swirl of chaos. And so I try to really bring that forward, whether it's a professional mom, whether it's to just a mom of kind of the age of younger kids, or kind of, preteen, teen, also maybe dealing with puberty at home and their own, you know,
Mhm.
hormonal changes. I mean, it's a swirl of things happening all at once that I think can really benefit from that take a minute, slow down, listen to your body, and really listen to what it's maybe telling you. But we've got to give it that space and that time to do that.
Traveling is such a great example of the microcosm of parenting and patience or lack of. And I've gotten in the habit of just having healthy snacks because while I am not above getting some sort of McDonald's or fast food or whatever, I just always also like to have an alternative because then I get on the plane and then I'm hungry and I don't want to have whatever they're serving. So I also, my ritual, I wear certain jewelry when I travel, the same bracelets, the same earrings. I touch the plane, the whole thing. And I also, depending on the time of day, have to have a shot. That's my ritual. But
Yeah.
after that, I try to have something healthy if I can. Parenting thrown into the mix of wellness
Hmm.
can really create some dis-ease. The work I do with clients, you hit it with your example of your client who chose to intuitively eat. And I also offer that to mine. And the difference might be between you and I is when I'm giving them that exercise and they're noticing how they feel with the food before and after, I ask them to notice it in their body where they're feeling it. So then that's the
Hmm.
conversation that dictates what I do with people through my lens. But just again, like the permission to be human, to understand that sometimes when you travel, it's going to be great no matter if anything's working or not. And sometimes you're just going to be completely triggered and pissed off. And to not judge and beat ourselves up for having those moments that fluctuate, just like our hormones, just like our appetites, our wants, needs, desires, right? So sometimes, especially with women leaders, I find with whom I work, rigidity sets in. And I know why, and I'm sure you know why. We want to fall back on stuff we know, even if it doesn't work. But the unraveling and the figuring out does create some chaos within our minds and bodies because if we're not this version of ourselves,
Yes.
whatever that is, and we're trying to change into a truer version, which is what I say, not always better, but truer, that brings up a lot of fear. And again, that word permission keeps coming up and empowerment keeps coming up. So could you offer some examples maybe of how you've encountered that kind of client? I say this to people like you that sit down with me. People hire us. They have every intention on wanting to work with us because they've made the call, they've walked in the door, whatever. And then we sprinkle our magic onto them and they're like, wait, what? I have to do what? No, not doing that. Right.
Yep.
And so they
Yep.
walk in and then they're like, no, you won't help me.
Hmm.
Right. So, how do you get over that hump?
Yeah. Yeah. It's a great question. And that's like what I said before. It's all about mindset is so much more of a key as in the coaching than even the new habit or the new sleep time. It's like that's the first step. And so another client that I've been working with recently, we had talked a little bit in an early conversation about the potential of some foods that maybe were triggers for this individual based on some symptoms and some other health things that were going on. And they had shared that they had done, kind of a light elimination plan in the past, and they had no interest in doing that again, and it didn't work, and it wasn't helpful, and they really didn't gain anything from it. That was fine. I wasn't gonna push, anyone to do that if that's not where their head is or where they're ready. A few sessions in, the client came to me and said, "You know what? I want to try this again. I'm in a different place than I was the last time I did this. I had just been, postpartum. I wasn't really in the right place. There was a lot of chaos. This is many years later, and I actually want to try it again. And I feel more planful about the process in terms of my meal planning." And that was her idea, and she went for it. And just doing really well, and she had had the concern of, "How am I gonna fit this into my life? I've got these other things going on, I'm going out, I have birthday dinners," and you know what? Again, like, she came to the conclusion, "Wait, you know what? I can maybe check in with the restaurant, I can maybe look at the menu and see what options there are, and I can live my life in a way that I'm trying to honor and sort of understand maybe if I have some things that are maybe not sitting right with me and still enjoy the company of other people and navigate it." And was it an absolutely perfect 100% compliant? No, but that was okay and it was on her terms, and she was so ecstatic that she's like, "You know what? I went out to a dinner and I didn't come home feeling bloated and gassy and just blah like I normally do." And so much of that is great, all of those things happen, but we talked about how much of a win that is and focusing on the celebration of that, right? So a small tweak, and I really help my clients really understand that it's great to take these tweaks and then really stop and pause and recognize them. Like that's
Mm,
a big deal from going and feeling like every time you go out to a meal and every time you're in a social setting, you come home and you just don't feel great to, wow, I found a way that I can go out and enjoy and do the things I want to do and not have those symptoms that were persisting and bothering me. And so
mhm,
and it's kind of what you were saying before too, the you know, seeing to believing, right? Experiencing that, making some small tweaks, and then actually feeling like, wow, this is making a difference. And you know what? Sometimes things you tweak and they don't make a difference. And so you can try something else. I mean, I really like to use the word tweak or experiment versus this is a hard and fast goal that we must follow,
mhm.
to the
I love
letter.
that. Yeah. There's no better catalyst for change or falling off a wagon than our wonderful friends, right?
Hmm.
Especially around the holidays. We
Hmm.
want to have the drinks, we want to have the cookies, we want to have all the things. And we show up when we're on a path to feel good after the meal. And we're like, no, I'm not drinking today, or I'm just cutting sugar out. And invariably, there's a friend be like, what do you mean? Like, why do you do this? Just have the cookie. And some people cave and buckle because they want to get along and they don't want to explain. And some people are really able to stick to their plan. Again, it's about empowerment and
Hmm.
permission. Our friends aren't going to make us feel badly. It's whatever we put into our bodies or our minds does that, right? So
Hmm.
if we are constantly being thrown off our game because we think that's the nice thing to do, we're not really being nice to ourselves. And so I know you posted some cute things around how to survive the Halloween
Uh,
candy frenzy. I loved those.
yeah.
And I'm sure that you've got some plans to help us navigate the upcoming holidays. Would you like to share any of those things?
Sure. Well, again, nothing like fancy, right? I think I like to think about a lot of guidance, whether it's certain settings or, as you said, holidays coming up and temptations of going back to just basics, right? Like really thinking mindful moments, right? Do I want this? Do I have a taste for this? Is this my sister's favorite pie and I want a piece or I want a slice or a sliver or something else? Sure. Like be intentional about, kind of where you're going and what you're going for and enjoy it and sit down and take a moment and not just like shove it in while you're cleaning the dishes because I think it goes back to that intentional like I'm choosing this for myself, that empowerment. That's
Mhm,
okay. I'm going to enjoy this. And great. And you know what? You might eat something that that isn't gonna sit well. And you know that going in, right? So you're making that conscious choice
mhm,
versus when stuff is just floating all over the place and you've kind of lost your way on is this serving me? Is this not? So I think the intentionality is a huge piece, whether holidays or just day to day, bringing that forward and enjoy the social settings, enjoy being with other people. That's a huge part of it too,
It's
of just
so
that
true.
connectivity, right?
Yeah, yeah, the mindset, a story is coming to my mind. I haven't thought about it in years, but my mom, rest her soul, made the
Hmm.
best chocolate chip uh, Toll House cookies. Ooh, they were like thin and crispy, and like she used Crisco and butter. Like she didn't follow. Oh my God, she's from Louisville, so it's all about the Crisco in my life.
Yep.
And my sisters used to come home, and who doesn't want one of your mom's cookies, right? But then they'd get the sniffles, they get the headache, even before this is like even before I was in college and before I was in this space. And now I recognize the mindset was they know they're going to feel shitty,
Right.
but they want mom's cookies, right? So if we come to the table saying, I know this is going to make me feel shitty, it's one meal. Now, listen, there are people who I call the whole baggers, where when they start with one cookie, they have to eat the
Hmm.
whole bag, or I'm not like that, but I know a lot of people are. And that's a whole other behavior or structure that needs to sort of unravel. But if we come to the table and we know, like Thanksgiving is a classic example for me. I often imagine myself just tying on a bib and just putting on a feed bag and not wiping my face until I'm completely done, like gravy everywhere. Just give it all to me. But it's one meal. And it's
Yep.
so,
Exactly.
I enjoy it, every morsel, every nibble. And if we can just let ourselves enjoy the morsels and nibbles, not just with food, but
Mm.
experiences, where we are at work, where we are with our kids. I know you mentioned growing a business and being in the mom frenzy, and it's really not for the faint of heart to take on
Mhm.
growing a business, no matter what age and stage you're at, right?
Yes.
But I know, because I know you too, like we catch ourselves like anybody does. How did I get to the store? I don't remember driving here. Why did I
Yes.
snap at my kids? All the things that if we can just remember, like even that drive to the grocery store, if we can just have a mindset, I'm going to find one thing I'm going to like on my way, a song on the radio or
Yes.
whatever makes
Yeah,
it.
absolutely. I actually just in the newsletter that I'm sending tomorrow, I have just a few short tips about gratitude, right? And how, this time of year and approaching Thanksgiving and just in general, kind of the friendliness. I sort of feel like right now we're a bit in a little bit of the calm before the storm of the holidays. Like maybe
Mhm,
calm. It's busy, but like it feels a little less busy than maybe what it's about to happen. I think taking, as you said, taking those times to just notice, like slow down, even just a walk, and you notice, like, sometimes I'm walking the dog and I notice a completely different house that I've walked by a million times. And I'm like, oh, wow, I never noticed this.
yeah.
Or just waking up sometimes with like a moment of appreciation for, oh, it's sunny today. Great. Like just little small things that you actually have the power to rewire your brain, your nervous system, and sort of set the tone for your day that I think is
Mhm,
so easy, me included, to forget and just like go into it. And I've been even trying to really, I usually keep my phone away from my bed when I can. I read this somewhere, the habit of kind of picking up your phone immediately and start looking at your email or the weather or anything. It's like 100 people in your head before you've even given your body a chance to wake up. So take
mhm.
5, 10 minutes and just do something else first, get your day started, stretch, and then let those 100 voices and all the other stuff come in. But it actually can really make or break sort of how you set the tone for your day.
And that's all about boundary setting, which is really
Mhm.
hard. I find, especially for women, especially for mothers,
Yes.
and around the holidays to set a
Yes.
boundary. It's so important. I was just on a retreat and I'm still integrating. I still have no words how amazing it was and exactly the experiences. But really, what it showed me is out of 20 people, we're all having these individual experiences, but these collective experiences and how our individual energy impacts the energy around us, right? So
Mhm.
if we're in the frenzy of cooking dinner, it's after school, it's the witching hour, we know what that is, especially when daylight savings time
Yes.
kicked in and it gets dark sooner.
Yes.
Recognize something makes me a little wigged out and fearful way back from my childhood. But we set the tone, let's say in our kitchen, in our lives, of course,
Mhm.
we set the
Mhm.
tone. So if we're already coming up charged up, in fear, pissed off, then what do we expect we're going to get back? And
Yeah.
so it is a lot of responsibility to take that pause and take that notice, especially if we're feeling a little short that day. I know sometimes I'm just like, why the fuck do I always have to make the changes? Why can't somebody else come into the kitchen making those changes? Right. But it
Yep.
really does all start with ourselves. And so, New Year's, I wrote something, I think a year ago, and in my yoga classes, I reframe the New Year's resolution to
Mm.
the New Year's evolution.
I love that.
Because thank you, because I feel like the resolutions also create these have tos versus get
Yes.
tos. And then there's
Yes.
shame that comes up when we fall off the wagon. So, how would you help people navigate maybe some of the shame and self doubt and judgment that comes up with the well intentioned good plan and path to make a change? And then we
Mhm.
find ourselves off the tracks a little bit.
Yeah. Yeah, and that happens, right? Because we're
Mhm.
human. I think a little bit what we were talking about before, I really try to focus on, progress over perfection and really help people sort of look back at like even the smallest thing of like, wow, look where we started and look where we've been and really look backward versus constantly trying to look forward. There's a great book called Between the Gap and the Gain. And it's all about that concept of if we're always looking forward about what we haven't accomplished, we're always going to be living in the gap versus living in the gain of look where we've come and look how much we've moved forward. And so, I mean, I think it's the same ideal of whether it's a little thing like, I had a client text me recently about a new breakfast recipe that we had talked about. The individual was looking to add a little bit more protein and have more steady energy throughout the day. And we brainstormed some different things to try out. And she sent me a picture, like, look what I made. And it tastes great. And it wasn't something she maybe initially thought she was gonna want to eat in the morning. And she felt good like throughout the days that she had sort of became more aware and tried to notice if anything was different. And so it's a little tiny thing, right? Trying one new thing, but like really making that something to celebrate. And you know what? Sometimes we try things and they don't work, and that's okay. And it's not about you didn't meet that goal, or from session to meet with someone and it's like, hey, update me on what we've talked about, and they didn't get to maybe what we talked about last time. It's less about, "Oh, why didn't you do that? What can we learn from that? Maybe it wasn't the right thing to be working on. Maybe it wasn't the right goal." Like, picking it apart versus making it a, "Why didn't this happen?" And let's learn from that experience and tweak again and try again. And so I think coming at it with that mindset versus, as you said, shame or "Why didn't this happen?" I think the other piece is really trying to integrate any kind of change into something that you're already doing or something you already like. Like, even with movement, instead of go exercise X days a week that maybe someone suggests or a provider suggests to someone, really having a conversation about what do you like to do? What are you already doing? Where are you already, like, what spaces are you already in that maybe you can up a little bit, or again, make a little bit of a tweak or a change versus these blanket statements of exercise this amount of minutes and it's only this. Start with meet someone where they are, I think is the bottom line.
I teach yoga. I'm a big fan of the yoga. I
Yes.
know you play tennis, right? We talked about this.
Yes.
Okay.
Uh-huh.
So activity, but I just signed up and I've been waiting to get into this class and waiting to get into this class. It means that I missed one of my yoga classes, but I started taking cardio dance. It has been
I love it.
the most hilarious fun. And I'm not the oldest, not the youngest, but it's just so much fun to, just change it up a little bit. And even if you feel ridiculous, sometimes what I say in class, it's like what you like the least, you need the most, right? So your client, because I have a client, I gave her a journaling exercise and the next week we meet, she's like, "Oh, I didn't do my journaling." She doesn't like to journal.
Hmm.
However, I know there's value in
Yes.
sometimes, okay, I see you didn't do it, but let's stick with this idea. Why don't you like it so much? Is it your
Yes.
voice? Is it your handwriting? And so just nudging them, right? So just tweak and nudge. I even say that the difference between holding a pose is like the difference between your kid squeezing the tuna salad out of you or getting a nice hug, right? So
Mm-hmm.
some people are so used to the squeeze, they're unused to just hug. And so just getting used to those different feelings, different activities, different mindsets. All right, so I want to sort of rapid fire some things at you. You ready?
Sure. Like you're
Okay.
ready.
What would you say if someone was describing you to me? What would they say is your superpower?
I certainly think like persistence is a superpower. I am a person that tends to find a way to sort of make something happen from an early age, whether it was activities or schooling or kind of moving to New York for graduate school at the last minute when I thought I was going to do something else. Different parts of my life, I think I certainly am a persistent person. So,
No, I love
yeah.
that. All right. And so far, what would you say has been your biggest challenge? Let's say with your business.
Sure. Biggest challenge, I think certainly like juggling the sort of structure and unstructure of being on my own, right? And that my schedule is for me to schedule when I was a slave to Zoom after Zoom or Outlook and in my previous life. So I think just managing my time sometimes around where does the mom stuff, household stuff, having the more time, that I wanted with my kids to be able to drive them after school or pick them up with trying to start and run and manage a business at the same time.
Yeah, the 24/7 clock doesn't
Yes,
really stop, especially
exactly. And
it feels like it triples when you're also adding a business into it that you're trying to nurture.
yes, yeah.
Totally got it. All right, so what would you say to date has been your biggest success for your business?
Great question. I mean, I think certainly I have really put myself out there from a social media, email, marketing perspective that a few months ago, I really had no idea what I was doing. I've only been on Instagram for a year, not even.
Mhm.
So since January, before that, I'd never touched it. And so I'm getting much more comfortable with just sharing who I am, my story, things that I think resonate with my clients, and just really, I think, finding my voice in terms of how people can understand what I'm about, what it's like to work with me, and offering up information that is useful and motivational.
Great.
So,
I love
yeah.
that. And now it's time for Joy on the Fives. Rebecca Glick, in this moment, besides this conversation, I have to start saying that. What is bringing you joy?
Oh my goodness. I mean, I guess lots of things. I mean, certainly like being outside, spending time with my family, knowing that we are having some downtime, I think in the next, week with the holidays coming and just being able to slow down and like reconnect. I'm certainly looking forward to that. I also really take joy in cooking for my family. And as much as there's moments where I'm like, oh my God, how do I fit this in? And, Sunday food prep or whenever I kind of fit in stuff, I always come back to the joy that I feel of nourishing my family, myself with foods that I'm preparing, that I know what it contains, and that they'll actually eat. So,
Yeah, that's nice. That's wonderful. Yeah, I like to remind people joy is not a luxury, it is our birthright. And when we're
mm,
busy, going from thing to thing, growing a business, doing all the wonderful things that we do, we forget to include joy sometimes until the end of the day, which is why this segment was inspired by a client of mine who was doing exactly that. And so I call it Joy on the Fives so that throughout the day, whether it's 5 minutes to the hour, like the news, weather, and traffic, whenever we can sort of pause, just like you said, the gap between just pausing, like the house you never saw on that walk. That
right.
must have been a joyful moment. Sending a text to your spouse or your kids with little heart emojis, whatever elevates your vibe.
Yep.
Again, lets you walk into the door or lets you present yourself to clients with just a little bit of a different energy.
Hmm.
Not saying you need to change it, but it's like the Snapple fact. Remember when
Yeah.
Snapple? So the Snapple fact that always sticks with me is it takes more muscles to frown than to smile.
I love
So
that.
why work hard? Just put a smile on
Hmm.
your face because it's just easier and it really does help your body think you're happy.
Hmm.
So
I love
take
that.
that for what it's worth. Yeah.
I love it.
I know you just did like a yoga collab and I was a little jelly about it, but I understand it was with somebody else and I know why. What did
There's more to be
you
had. There's lots
I
of
know.
yoga to do and
So,
lots
but
of
I
moms who
see
wanna do it.
I'm just kidding. It's totally fine. And I love who organized it too. We're both in a lot of the same
Yes.
groups. And so there's
Yes.
bound to be overlap. And again, it is lots of ladles with similar pots. So we'll get together at some point. But what is coming up for you in terms of down the pike? Like, have you already made plans for 2026 a little bit? Would you like to spill any secrets or put manifestation wishes out to the public that you hope to be building?
I love all of that. Well, coming up, I did just launch my website, so I'm excited about that, so I hope people will give that a check, and I'd love any feedback. I am in the new year also planning to launch something called a Working Women Reset. So a coaching program really designed to what we were talking about for the busy corporate or professional women who really are struggling of how to sort of integrate the habits of, healthy eating, sleep, managing stress in the confines and sort of bounds sometimes, or what we think are bounds, right? And maybe aren't bounds of just a very fast paced, demanding career. So that will be launching in the new year and, taking input from people as well on sort of what that will look like. But I'm shaping that now. So excited about that to introduce that to people.
Well, I think those are amazing things. Congrats on getting the website up. I know that's a huge deal. Integrating the Instagram and getting comfortable with that is also something that sounds like you're mastering more and more.
Yeah,
And
and
I'm
it's
noticing.
oh, well, thank you. It's a channel, right? It's not like
Yeah,
the only thing. And I think I really love being in person with people too. So figuring out ways to do more of that. It's a little bit of everything and also finding what works for you, what works for your audience. And then it's a work in progress, right? And so
yes.
there's always tweaks along the way.
Well, I mean, how can we be effective coaches if we don't also apply
Yeah.
that lens to ourselves in terms of knowing that it takes trial and error and tweaks and humor for sure,
Yes.
and being unafraid to toss something out that really isn't working, even if it's our idea. Like one of my biggest challenges is even just the schedule of this podcast. When I put
Mm,
this podcast out, I'm like, I'm going to do an episode every other week. And then if I didn't get it done, I was like, oh my God,
right.
no one really cares. It's like no
Exactly. It's like
one's knocking on my
who
door. I don't think anybody
and
cares except for
and
me.
and as much as I'm sure people love reading it and I get feedback on the content that I put
Yeah.
out, no one is also
Whenever we
sitting
do
and
it,
waiting and saying, "It's November, whatever, where's your newsletter?"
yeah, it's enough that people read it. And
Mhm.
listen, if somebody said to me, I really rely on your daily messages, which I don't do, but I mean, I would say, that's wonderful. Sometimes I just can't get to it.
Right. Well,
So,
it's like Doctor Heal Thyself. Like if
exactly.
you're not taking care of yourself as a practitioner, as a coach, then it's hard to help other people learn to take care of themselves.
Mhm.
So it is
Yeah.
finding that balance.
Ego is coming up. So, the gift of when I went through teacher training is both a gift and a challenge because back in the day, this was back in 2012, there were 60 people coming to classes. Then other studios started to open. And then other teacher training programs started to happen, of which I was one. And so I came on the scene where there was never a guarantee I was going to get 60 people in my class. But it came up in my mind like, how come I don't have 60 people in my class? But you know what? The people that come to my class, whatever the number is, like they're meant to be there. But it's we who get caught up in, well, how come that's not happening for me, right?
Mm,
Or
mhm, mhm.
why is this changing? And it's the same with Instagram. I'm starting to see it. We've been on the same calls where people are reporting, like, I used to get thousands of likes and now I'm getting four. The algorithm changing on social media is completely out of our control.
Yes.
From a mindset and coaching, teaching standpoint, I'm sure you would agree, and this is whittles down to our kids as well. If we are basing our value and our
Yes.
popularity and our worth on how many likes or views we get, it's like only being happy when the sun is shining, right?
Mhm,
Everything is
mhm.
going to change. And what we can control is knowing that we are valued, which is why my hashtag is you matter, among
Mhm.
other things. So when people can start with the baseline of no matter what the weather, no matter what the likes and views, you're a wonderful person, full stop, for all of the ups and downs and ins and outs that you
Yeah.
experience, then that's where we really need to start and remind ourselves it's not about how many emails you have or people in your class or how many clients walk in the door. It's, are you making a difference first to yourself so
Mm.
that you can be more available to make a difference to others?
100% agree with everything you said,
Yeah.
and that's exactly what lights me up with my clients is when I get to spend that time with someone one-on-one and they have those aha moments for themselves. I was like, "Wow, I you actually asked me a question that made me think differently." Like, that is just gold to me in my mind of helping people see things differently.
I love that.
Yes.
All
Yeah.
right. So tell other people where to find you, how to find you, and anything else you'd like to say before we end this in a little bit.
Sure. So people can find me on Instagram. We'll see what they think. It's at Nefesh, so Nefesh living, all one word. I also have website, same, www.nefeshliving.com. And in both those places, people can learn more about me. The place to sign up for a free newsletter that I offer with recipes and tips and just other ideas to help women feel their best in midlife. And also, I always am open to, complimentary discovery calls with potential clients who just want to learn more about what I'm all about, what health coaching is about, if it's right for them. And, it's really a co-created process. So there's got to be trust and collaboration and chemistry. And I always, that's a really key first step to sort of understanding, is this right for me? Is just having a conversation. So
Yeah. Where did the name come from?
it's a great question. So the word nefesh is a derivative of the Hebrew word for soul.
Mm.
And so I really believe in just whole body wellness, right? From, mind, body, and spirit of how we take care of ourselves. And so that's what I wanted my business to reflect was I take a functional medicine lens, right? As a functional medicine health coach. So sort of that root cause, all these interconnections of it's not just one thing, like your food is affecting your sleep, your movement is affecting your food, like everything is interconnected. And I really believe that, our mind body and our mindset, and just as we've talked about so much in this conversation of listening to those cues, is connected to our own healing. And so I wanted the word soul and a Hebrew word to reflect that.
I marked that down to ask you towards the beginning. I'm glad I remembered.
Come
You
to
know,
you, right? If it's
I
important.
wear this intention necklace.
Uh-huh.
Scott and Marla Berger were on one of my early shows, and this is wrapped with a tree of life. And there's
Mm,
pieces of paper that you put in here. Those are your intentions. And from yoga, we know when you set an intention, you often have your hands at your heart. So this kind of
mhm,
hangs like right. You can't see it, but it hangs at the heart. So it's always close to me, just like our spirits and our intentions are
mhm,
close to ourselves. So I had the pleasure of doing something I'd never done before when I actually had time to talk to you, which was I did chair Reiki for 10 minutes, like all in a row, like a bunch of
uh-huh,
people. And I was like, I don't know if I can do this. I don't know what's going to happen. And things happened. You were one of the clients that echoed that I had some accurate intuitive hits. So thank you for
uh-huh. You did.
boosting my confidence with that. And it just happened in this retreat. We were asked to read each other in a way I'd never been invited to before. And I was like, I don't know if I'm going to be able to do this. And lo and behold, I just started relying on what I know and how I know what I do.
Mhm.
And out of the room, everybody was doing their own thing. And so, in that way, intuitive hits came through that were accurate. So, that was very validating. But also, I wanted to sort of circle back and wrap this up in a beautiful bow that through custom design wellness, which is what I do, and Nefesh living, which is what you do, we both alchemize all of our experiences and our training and expertise into customized pathways that help our clients.
Mhm.
And I love that connection that you and I share, among other things. And I really enjoy getting to learn more about you always. And I
Yeah.
appreciate the time that you took to come be with me on the Real and the Woo today, Rebecca. Thank you.
Thanks, Laurie. It was a pleasure.
Yeah. All right.